I got a buddy who says that there are two kinds of people in every family. People who are constantly losing things and people who have to find those lost things. Does this ring true for you? Is this how it works in your home? Yeah. I'm a finder in my home because my two lovely children are people who lose things. Daddy, I need help finding my favorite pencil. We got like a dozen pencils, but it's my favorite one. Daddy, I need help finding my bow and arrow. It's like bigger than you are. Daddy, I need help finding the cat. The cat does not want to be found. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a regular occurrence. I actually created a system this last winter because I was so tired of trying to help them find things that were relatively easy to find. We created this thing called finding tokens. They're not real. They're just imaginary tokens, but they get one a month. So once every calendar month, they can come to me and say, Daddy, I'm turning in my finding token. I need help finding my whatever it might be. And if they do, I tell them, listen, if you use your finding token today, then you don't get to use it at any point until we switch months. That's okay, I understand. So you guys get it. Raise your hand if you're a finder in your home. How many of you? Yeah. You have my permission to just look around at those sitting next to you and say, y'all are a bunch of losers. I'm just kidding, don't do that. So mean. So mean. Today's parable that we're looking at this morning, and really it's three stories together. We're going to look at two of them this morning, and you're going to look at one from a friend of mine named Drake this evening. Today's story, though, is about lost things being found. I want to read the first two of the three stories, and I'd like for you to listen in. Once again, you're welcome to turn in your Bibles to Luke 15 this time. And you also can follow along on the screens as we read some stories that Jesus tells. I'll give you a second to get there. Luke chapter 15. I'm just going to read verses 1 through 10. It says, Now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear Jesus. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, This man welcomes sinners and eats with them. You get the picture. Jesus is hanging out with the wrong type of people, and many of the religious elite are not super favorable toward who he's keeping company with. Then verse 3, Jesus told them this parable. Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Doesn't he leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? And when he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders and goes home. Then he calls his friends and neighbors together and says, Rejoice with me, I have found my lost sheep. I tell you that in the same way there will be more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who do not need to repent. Second story, verse 8. Or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and she loses one. Doesn't she light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she calls her friends and neighbors together and says, Rejoice with me, I have found my lost coin. In the same way, I tell you, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. These are our stories. And I told you yesterday, I will always tell you the truth. And so I'll tell you, the truth is, I'm a little bit nervous about our time today. I'm a little bit concerned about how you'll receive me. And it's not because I care if you like me or whatever. I mean, I don't want you to hate me, but that's really not even the point. I'm a little bit worried about whether you'll be able to hear me. Whether the message that I feel a responsibility to kind of carry to you is something that will come across. I've got bad news, that's the thing. And it's a kind of bad news that's not particularly fun to hear. And there are a lot of reasons why it might be easy for you to just write me off or ignore me. For one thing, like society currently tells you that I'm an untrustworthy person. I'm a 40-year-old white male in a position of spiritual power. I'm like a walking stereotype, you know? And the world tells you that you probably shouldn't trust me because really I just only want to maintain my own power. And the fact is, this is sometimes true. And you don't know. You don't really know which category to put me in. Beyond that, part of the bigger issue is, again, you don't know me yet. I've had a conversation with some of you, but most of you don't know me well enough to really know whether I'm telling the truth when I tell you that I care about you. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. Plus, you add to that the fact that we currently live in a time where hard truths have been recast as hate speech. Where if I tell you something that you don't want to hear, it's because I'm anti-you, or because I'm trying to deny your existence, or because I'm just, again, not in favor of your well-being. That's tough. Man, that's a tough place to be in as a community of people trying to pursue the truth. And actually reminds me of a time when my daughter Claire was just about 2 years old. She was adorable. And so she just kind of bounced around all over the place with a big smile on her face. And she wore these cloth diapers at the time, which means she had this like pink cover around them. So she just had this huge pink booty, and she'd just walk around the house with this huge pink booty. So cute. Anyway, one time I'm sitting in a chair, and she's kind of like across the room from me. So I'm in a chair back here, and she's across the room, and there's a wall. She's just looking at the wall, and it's kind of weird. I'm like, why are you staring at the wall, babe? And then I realized why she's staring at the wall, because there's an electrical outlet right there in front of her, and she's just looking at it. And she's standing there, me behind her, and I watch her as she just raises her hand. Now, keep in mind, this is pre-Stranger Things, okay? So now I would be like, oh my gosh, I got to keep you away from Hawkins. You know what I'm saying? So she just stand there, and she just raises her hand. And I said, Claire, and she put her hand down. But she didn't move, didn't turn around, didn't look at me. So again, she leans in, starts to put her hand up. I said, Claire, and she put her hand down. This happened like 3 times. After 3 times, she turned around, and she started big grin walking toward me. And I'm going to flip the room right now. So this is her, and she walks around toward me, and she's just walking, and she's probably like 3 feet away from me. So she's really close. The wall's probably 8 feet that direction. And she stops, and she just looks at me, and she locks eyes with me. And she does not take her eyes off of my eyes, but here's what she does. And I said, Claire, and she popped it down. You know, like, so we had this funny moment where it's like, you know what I'm doing. I'm keeping her from putting her hand in the electrical outlet. The next time she tried to reach up to the outlet, I just walked over and I flicked her on the hand. I was like, we got to get the point through, you know. And the reason I did this is, as you know, because I'm a good father. Like, there's no world in which I'm going to go up to her and be like, listen, here's the deal, little 2-year-old baby girl. I think that touching electrical outlets is a bad idea, but who am I to impose my beliefs on you? Like, you got to do you, babe. So all I can do is tell you about my world, but you got to decide your world. I can tell you my truth, bad idea. You got to figure out yours. I'm not going to do that because I'm not a terrible dad. Why am I saying all this? I'm saying this because I have to tell you something negative this morning. It's not all I have to say, but I got to tell you something negative. This parable tells you one thing about God and 2 things about you. The thing about God is easy, obvious, and important. God is a finder. He is someone who finds things. 2 things about you, good news, bad news. This time we'll actually start with the good news. First thing you need to know from this parable is you are wanted. Can you hear me? You are wanted. I want you to think about the stories. So start at the very end of the story. Look at the celebration. These people find these things and they throw a party. Like, what would you celebrate finding? Like, truth is, I'm a finder compared to my children, but I kind of also lose things. Like, I'm a kind of person who might misplace my keys, my phone, my whatever. And like, sometimes you lose things and it's not a big deal. I can't find my belt. I'm just going to go get another one, you know? But sometimes you lose things, and if you find them, you celebrate. Like, if I lose my keys, I'm celebrating. If I lose my phone, I'm celebrating. I found my phone, you know? If I lose my child, Y'all ever lost your parents? Yeah. You ever been in that? And like, when you're a kid, if you lost them, like, even if you don't really like super love your parents, super like your parents, if you lose them and then you find them, you are wrapping them up in a hug. So you celebrate the things that you find when these are things that you value. You need to see that in the story. How much you celebrate, hear this, how much you celebrate reveals how much you wanted what you lost. Even before the celebration, though, I want you to back up and look at the search. Picture the story. So a woman loses a coin. She notices. She searches. Shepherd loses a sheep. 1 out of 100. He notices. He searches. Some things we lose and we don't even notice. If you had like $100 for every pen or pencil you lost in elementary school, you would be rolling. You know what I'm saying? But you can't even calculate the amount that you lost or would receive because you didn't even realize that you misplaced them. Like, some things we lose and we really don't even notice. Other things we lose and we notice, but we don't care. You know, you ever like lost a couple of dimes? And by which I mean the little silver things, not the other dimes. You ever lost a couple of dimes and you're like, I don't know. They're not here. They were 20 cents. No big deal. I'm fine without them. You need to know you are not the kind of thing that God loses and then says, no big deal. I'm just as happy without it. God doesn't throw people away. A friend of mine says we live in a throwaway culture. Something gets damaged, something is lost, just goes out of style. It's easy. We'll just replace it. Lose my iPad cord, whatever. I'll just buy another one on Amazon. We're conditioned to consume, throw away, and replace. Every year there's a new phone coming out with new things that really aren't that different from the last things, but we see the new things and we think, I must have the new phone. Consume, throw away, replace. And a throwaway culture treats people the same way. A throwaway culture exploits people, uses people, keeps people around while it can get something from them, but then drops them as soon as it gets from them whatever it wants from them. Y'all, I realize these are just words, but these words may hurt. I don't know your story. I don't know if you come from a family that communicated how much you are wanted, that wanted you. I don't know your friend history. I don't know if you've had a group of friends that wanted you while you could do something for them, but then dropped you as soon as they realized you weren't going to advance them, move them forward. Maybe that's happened to you. And you need to know that is not how the kingdom of God works. That is not how the kingdom of heaven operates. The story makes that clear. God makes no throwaway people. God is a searcher. God is a finder. You are wanted. Wanted. Now, I would absolutely love to stop here and walk off stage, but I don't know that that would be the most loving thing I can do for you. That would be like me coming up to my little 2-year-old Claire saying, I love you, babe, have fun, and then leaving the room. No, the story actually says more than one thing. And the second thing it says to you is that you are lost. Now, again, I promised not just to tell you what to think, but to invite you to ask questions and make you think for yourself, even this early in the morning. So I want to be consistent and flip this around. Are you lost? That's the question. Think about that. Are you lost? It's kind of hard to get lost these days, like physically. It's not as easy as it used to be, you know? Like if I get lost, I just pull out one of the Maps apps, try to figure out where I am and figure out where I want to go and then listen to the little Australian voice that tells me how to get there, you know? And if I lose this thing, then I just grab my wife's and find my friends, and then I find this thing and find my way around. Like it's kind of hard to feel lostness in the ways that it might have been before the current tech we have. We've gotten really good at not misplacing our stuff. But I wonder if we're as good at not misplacing ourselves. If you think this question doesn't matter, if you doubt the value, the importance of answering this, I want you to think about if you had like a terminal illness, an illness that was going to kill you. If you had a terminal illness but you didn't know it and you had the opportunity to find out, wouldn't you want to find out? Like if there was a cure for this, but you can only take the cure if you know you have the disease, wouldn't you want to know if you had the disease? Wouldn't you pursue the truth in this situation? And the thing is, you will never value being found. You will never value being searched for until or unless you know that you are lost. Unless you believe that you are dangerously lost. I believe that Jesus is God searching for you. But I really don't expect you to care unless you know you need to be found. So make the question personal. Am I dangerously lost? To be lost is, let's explore the metaphor, it's just to be misplaced, to be out of place. Like literally, you're supposed to be somewhere, but you're not where you're supposed to be. But we know that it's not really always about the place, Like if I lose my keys, it's not a problem because my keys belong in my pocket. It's because my keys serve a purpose, and I kind of need them to start the car, Or if you're lost from a person, if you're like at the grocery store, at a fair, or something, a carnival, wherever you are, you're at the park, and like a parent loses the child, like there needs to be a reuniting, but it's not because of where, it's not like, my kids need to be in aisle 12. No, it's that I'm in aisle 12 and my kids need to be right beside me. So to be lost means that you're not with the person whom you were created to stand alongside. There's also this sort of like general sense of, I just feel lost, You ever say that? You ever feel that? I just feel off. I feel like, what are we saying when we say that? I'm not where I want to be. I'm not where I want to be physically. I'm not where I want to be emotionally. I'm not where I want to be intellectually. That's Amanda's story. My mind is not where I want it to be. Even if you're a follower of Jesus, you might feel this at times. Like something's off. Maybe I'm not where I should be. Do you? I know you do. I know you feel this. This is why we hide. This is why we pretend. This is why we act like things are better than they are. Gosh, it breaks my heart. I was meeting with a young man I mentored just a couple weeks ago. I'm not going to say his name because actually some people in the room know who he is. I'll call him Jack. And I'd become aware of some some sin in Jack's life in a previous relationship that he had been in, and I needed to confront him on it. And so we got together, and I said, listen, buddy, I want you to tell the truth. You know I love you no matter what. We got to deal with what's actually going on. Like, tell me what happened in this relationship. I said, well, we did this and this and this. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. What about this? Oh, that too. What about this? Oh, that too. So like when you just told me that's it, what were you doing? I was lying. Why are you lying to me? Because I felt ashamed. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Look, maybe part of it is not your fault. Again, you have two stories that aren't the same. The coin didn't do anything to become lost. Somebody just misplaced it. Like maybe that's part of your story. Maybe part of why you're far from God is not primarily because you did something, but because, I don't know, maybe it's the family, the church, the community, the city in which you grew up. It's just your life has not been conducive to drawing close to God. Maybe that's a part of your story. If it is, I want to respect and recognize that. But there's another story. Some of it is on you. I don't mean to be overly harsh, but some of it is on each of us. The sheep was not lost because of somebody else. The sheep was lost because it wandered off. It stopped following the shepherd's voice. Some who wander are lost. Are you? Now, don't forget the good news. If the parable tells the truth about the coin, the parable tells the truth about the woman. If the parable tells the truth about the sheep, the parable tells the truth about the shepherd. If the story tells the truth about you, then the same story tells the truth about him. Now, what you do with this truth, oh, that's not up to me. Now, maybe I'm asking the wrong question. Maybe the relevant question is not, are you lost? But instead, will you let yourself be found?